Just to say, obviously, that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission has been going for 65 years. It's part of the UK's aid programme to support development across the world. And we have traditionally focused on providing scholarships for people in the Commonwealth, particularly in low and middle income countries in the Commonwealth, to come and study masters and PhDs here in excellent UK universities. But the condition is that they go back and create marvellous developmental impact in the countries that they originally came from. And indeed, Mark Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, is a distinguished Commonwealth scholar. And really today is all about bringing the new community of Commonwealth Startup Fellows, so the people here in this room that I had pleasure in meeting in Accra, in Ghana, back in November, and many people who are online, who are current students of master's degrees, of PhD degrees, but also alumni from the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. And really, we want to focus on entrepreneurship today, because actually a lot of the people who come through the traditional academic route, when they apply, we ask them in their applications, what's going to be your developmental impact? Some people talk about doing that through institutions they currently work with, but a lot of them are eager, hungry, excited about setting up their own initiatives. And the people who are on the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship here in the room today and on the panel are, I must say, brilliant, pioneering, talented people who have already gained a lot of traction in the businesses that they've set up. And they're not only, achieving growth in their income, but they're achieving impact in the work that they do. That's why they were chosen to be on this Commonwealth Startup Fellowship programme, which is funded, obviously, through the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, which I'm a commissioner of, but delivered very excellently by Imperial College London. And this whole programme that they've been engaged with over the last 6 months, the second cohort of it, has been about giving them the skills and the relationships and the platforms to be able to take their businesses to the next level. They've already achieved a lot of progress, but this is taking them to the next level. So they've had a fantastic programme here in London this week, including pitching to investors yesterday, which went very well. And I remember some of you 6 months ago seeing some of your pitches and comparing them with what you did yesterday. I could see real development and progress, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there are VCs and angel investors who are interested in funding you. So this panel session today is a chance for 3 excellent speakers to talk about what they're doing with their businesses, and then for you in the audience here, Tavistock House, but also the many people online to ask questions as well. So the theme is enterprise and impact, entrepreneurship, growth, and national development. And my thesis is that in the developed world, more and more people are moving to entrepreneurship, frustrated with traditional employment practices, but also frustrated with government being too sclerotic, slow in achieving the change that we need to improve prosperity and opportunities and sustainability. So people are turning for entrepreneurship to achieve, yes, more personal benefit, but also more public benefit as well. And now that's happening as well in the developing world. And you guys are pioneers of that. So I'm delighted to introduce 3 people here. So Helen Nonyasa is from Uganda. She'll speak first. She runs a startup called Helton Traders Limited, which turns plastic waste into affordable sewing threads to power Africa's textile industry. So Helen, perhaps you'd like to speak first, and I'll ask you some questions. And then I'll go to Milan Alexander, who's from Sri Lanka, right next to me. And he runs a startup called Sens Agro Solutions, which empowers smallholders with an affordable, highly localized precision automation platform. And then thirdly, I'll ask to speak will be Anthony Owusu Ansar. If I pronounced that correctly?
Perfectly.
Brilliant. And he normally likes to take the chair, so I'm glad that I've got the chair this time to keep him in order. And he runs a business called Shack Express in Ghana, and it's a tech-powered green logistics company enabling last mile delivery with electric bikes in Ghana. Just to say, I've got the computer in front of me, and some people are still making complaints about the sound and the audio. So perhaps, someone has come to fix that. The sound person has come to fix that. Something that I can never get my head around. I'm too much of an academic. So let's start with you, Helen. So tell us, please, just a little bit more about your business and how you came about this idea and what was the gap you saw needed meeting.
All right, thank you so much. And again, thank you for giving me this platform. The whole of East Africa, we have two interconnected programs. So we are importing 95% of the sowing rates. And then these sowing rates take up to over 60 days to arrive. But then at the same time, just in Uganda alone, we are generating over 600 tons of plastic waste in a day. And 60% of that is never collected or recycled properly. So what we do at Hilton, we turn that waste into high quality sustainable polyester sowing rates. So what has been happening is due to constant stockouts of these sowing rates, customers usually they lose a lot of revenue in customers. And then in the end, it's like their businesses are not really working and they're not being sustainable. And then the other thing also, due to heavy dependence on imports, we are robbed of that opportunity of recycling this plastic waste. So where we come in the picture is we turn that problem into an opportunity. So we've also been able to, we are working with a whole big community of women and waste pickers. So we are not only making money, but also trying to make sure that we are empowering these waste women and youth speakers who are doing an incredible job in our ecosystem. Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. Now, look, I know I'm a thoroughly handsome man, but don't look at me all the time. Do look at the camera because that's where the audience is, and the audience out here. But Helen, lots of people now who are doing their masters or PhDs or have finished it think very much in the world of theory and ideas, but you're actually delivering stuff now. So just tell us where you are with your business in terms of how many customers you have, how much money you're making, all of those sorts of things. That gives an example of how live this is. It's not just an idea; it's happening in practice.
All right, thank you so much. So I'll start by saying starting Hilton Traders, first of all, after graduating, I went on to do something that I loved doing, and I went through fashion and textiles. So that actually doesn't even feel like I'm working at all. So right now, our business, we are growing business. First of all, we are having over 110 plus wholesale textile traders. So first of all, our business is a B2B. So we are working directly with wholesale textile traders. So wholesale textile traders are these traders who have been buying in bulk from mostly China. And so we are making sure that we working directly with them. We want them to save more money and then get their deliveries on time because there's been a delay always. So and also We've been able to recycle over 1,200 tons since we started, which we feel is really a great start. And we are working towards upon scaling. We want to increase on how we want to work on how we can boost our recycling capacity and production. And also, we've been able to grow ever since we started from 2021. We've grown our revenue from 45,000 US dollars to currently 212,000 US dollars. And right now, with the level we're at, we are projecting an increment in revenue of about 2.4 million US dollars by 2029. Well, that's because we have our product has a very huge market. There is a huge market demand for our product, and upon scaling, we are very positive we shall be able to hit that. Yes. And also, we are working with persons with disabilities. So with our work, we believe that it's not only about profits or money, but also the impact it brings to the whole community, also cleaning our environment, creating these opportunities while we keep growing. Yes.
Great, thank you. That's, I mean, really inspirational stuff. Just how you're both growing commercially, but also having a developmental impact, because that's really what we've been looking for from the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission for the businesses that we support. And of course, a lot of people have great ideas, but they often need the resources to be able to execute on those ideas. And that's why, you know, some people do what's called bootstrapping. They're able to get revenue straight away, but most people need some upfront investment, either grants or indeed from investors who take a slice of the person's business. And lots of people here this week in this room and on this panel have been seeking another round of investment to give them the money to expand their businesses. So, Miller, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, how you came to the idea, and what's your progress so far in terms of hard numbers, as it were, customers and money. It's not just an idea, it's a real thing.
Thank you, Brian, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. So since I was started in 2015, honestly. But the most important part, I'm coming from Sri Lanka. So the northern part of Sri Lanka, where it was just finishing 40 years of civil war. And finishing a war means you have more than enough problems to solve to thrive from that. So it's an open-ended requirements to bring it on to the life. And that's where so I was kind of a taught entrepreneur, never being a born entrepreneur, to being honest. So I started my company in second year in my university. So it was a simple branding company with website and so on, because that's all I know as a computer science engineer. So that I don't consider that as a startup venture. It's pretty much like my pocket money, and it's pretty much covering my expenses. But so while working at the university for my UG, there was an accelerator program, basically called Sri Lanka's first accelerator program called YAL IT Hub, which is a community-driven program. So the motive was, so there was a war, and there's nothing in the ground at the moment. Many lives were lost, and we had to build the environment from ground up. So the problems were very much opened up. So my friends, my colleagues at the moment, my co-founders are electronic engineers. So they come up with a small gadget. Basically, you can switch on your irrigation pumps from SMS. That's all we did. So this was in 2014 for the Accelerator program as a competition. But the interesting part, the cost to do that was huge. The landmines are not completely clear. And we get like 2 hours of electricity in the midnight. We have to go to the field, switch on the motor, and 90% of the population depend on agriculture during that time period. And since the landmines are not clear, it's very risky to go to the field, and sending an SMS is the highest tech you have in 2013-14 periods. And people liked it. We are the first crowd-funded tech company in the country. So we got investment from 24 people, diasporas around the world, especially from Canada, UK, France. They invest like $500, $1,000. And we don't know the concept of crowdfunding even. We call it community funding from YAL IT Hub. And through that, we got 26,000 raised in 2014. Day two from my graduation, we start since Mate, my mother company. And engineers being engineers, we invest everything on tech and bankrupted within 6 months. Because it's impossible for an engineer to think about the business model immediately. We thought, yes, there is a problem. 90% of the population, numbers was amazing in the slides. So, and we implement the tech for paddy farmers, rice producers basically, and they could pay maximum in today's money like £2 to £3 maximum, and we invest $26,000 in the tech in 2014. And we bankrupted within 6 months, even before we realizing losing money. And then we came back to Colombo, the capital. So the government funded us, so as a grant. So we were really thankful from that. So from that, we chin up, pivot to post-harvest technologies, where we put sensors on cold rooms and reefers and warehouses where the perishable storage happens. That product clicked very well. So we're working on B2B environment. And one of the largest, maybe they are the largest company in Sri Lanka, the blue chip company, it's a British company, who are running for more than 135 years in Sri Lanka right now. So they become our first investors. We got a chance to spoke to the founders or the current managers, and they were clients for 2 years. They know we are entrepreneurs coming from North and doing something very interesting, and AI, IoT was very new in 2016, and they invest on us in 2017. And from that onwards, it's an amazing journey. So we know the mistakes, we failed and burned ourselves. So it's an amazing journey. And then we got the investment and the backup from the largest company in Sri Lanka. And now we are operating in 10 countries in smallholder ecosystem. We bring precision agriculture to the smallholders. Basically, we are not reinventing the wheel. It was there in Israel, Netherlands for more than 4 decades. But why it's not implemented for the majority, like 85% of the food coming from smallholders. So that is the gap we feel. We figure out the localization factors, what are the biggest gaps there. And we identified that it took more than 5 years, universities helped us, and we did plenty of pilots there, and the company backed us. And finally, from 2020 onwards, just after the COVID was huge opportunity. The past 4 years, we made more than 450 smart operating farms at the moment in 10 countries and more than 30,000 beneficiaries. We are making a pay-as-you-go SaaS model, annually roughly around $130, $30,000 as the SaaS subscription we are raising at the moment. So yeah, there's a long way to go and huge blue ocean to capture.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, 3 things stand out for me from listening to you both already. The first is how a lot of entrepreneurs are driven by a passion for what they do. It's not just work, it's a passion. You don't feel like it's work. I mean, sometimes probably very difficult days, but it sounds like, you talked about it being a passion, not really work. You talked about starting when you were a university student as a kind of side hustle. So that's, really, you've got to be really passionate about it because you need stamina. You've got to, you're going to have a lot of failures, setbacks, pivoting. You've got to have that stamina, and that comes from that passion. I think the second is that a lot of you are co-founders. You work with somebody else because you're not omniscient. You're not all-knowing. You don't have the skills completely. You need other people in your team, and often you get that as a co-founder, or you have to hire other people. And a lot of people talk about there being a commercial founder and a tech founder, someone who's more into the product and the technical details, and somebody else who's more of a CEO type figure who can sell the business, work with investors, develop the clients. So that's really interesting. And the third thing I think I noticed was just the sense that there will be failure. Failure is an inevitable part of the entrepreneurial journey. You will get rejected. Your product won't land properly to begin with. You're pivoting, you're developing new relationships. You have to keep going and going and going, driven by that passion you have for what you're doing. So I'm finally just going to ask Anthony, tell us about your business and how's it going at the moment? Where did it come from and where you're at the moment? Could you speak to the camera?
Thank you very much. And it's good to be here. Hello to everyone. My name is Anthony Usans. I'm the founder and the CEO of Shark Express. And at Shark Express, currently we are a technology company that's running a last mile fulfillment, warehousing, and intercity delivery. The story started in 2016. I was in a place of inconvenience, and I was wondering how I could get things for myself without the need to struggle. So my business had relocated, and my company had relocated me to a different region to work, the western side of the country. And it was a very urban, rural area. So getting things was very difficult. I move around a lot, and then I come back home and I need to go drive out and buy things. I thought that was too much of a problem for me. So I decided I would start a business that will help me get the things I need and help people get the things they need. Unfortunately, I could not. I started, registered the business and all that, but I could not commercialize it because I was moved out of the region back to the regional capital. When I got there, I got busy, new role, bigger role. I forgot about Shark Express. I shelved it. Then 2020, COVID happened. When COVID happened, I was helping a friend promote his business. He was into the delivery business, and there was a need, there's a high demand for delivery services in Ghana. In fact, it was called an essential service during the lockdown period. So I shared his contact with a couple of friends, and the feedback I got from them was that he was overwhelmed and he couldn't serve all the clients that were reaching out to him. So my wife suggested to me, since you have this idea some time back, why don't you start? And that's when I decided to start or commercialize Shark Express. 9th May 2020, we started with just 4 bags and a very small corner as an office. And the idea was a side, because at that time I was working with Vodafone, so I was just trying. My journey in entrepreneurship was more was accidental. I was just trying to see if the idea I had can materialize. 3 months into running it, I saw the figures, I saw the data, and I was like, no, there's an untapped market in this country. This figures didn't make sense. So I started reading about the logistics industry, the delivery businesses in Africa. Then I realized that it's one of the biggest challenges in Africa, especially Ghana. I started reading further to find who is solving this problem. There was a big gap. Nobody solved it. And even if they are solving it, it's fragmented. How do I fix it? So I decided to start. At that time, I was tech savvy, but I didn't know how to code. I didn't know anything about technology. All I knew was how to sell. And I figured I have to do everything by myself. But coding was a difficult one. So I needed to learn more about how I can do this traditional business with technology. So the first 5-6 months of the business was purely traditional. No tech, nothing. Just a phone, you call us, we come, we pick up. We managed to find our way to you. Then I realized that there was so much inconvenience and gap in execution. So then how do we make it seamless and easy for everyone to enjoy a swift, secure, reliable, and convenient delivery? Then now we start looking into tech. So looking at companies that deliver by Eat, and those big multinationals. So we started as an on-demand, did it on demand for a while. Unfortunately for us, that same year, we had the likes of Gold, Yango coming around with their big deep pockets, technology. They swallowed us. We tried, but it was tough. Then in trying to stay afloat and compete, we also noticed a gap that the people who struggle most actually is the businesses, the SMEs, the small business, the e-commerce, the online sellers, the homepreneurs, those who sell from their homes, the local commerce. They were struggling because they were in between the two divides. The multinationals were too big and bureaucratic and not flexible for them, that they cannot accommodate their business. And the local companies were too fragmented, too informal, and were not reliable for them. So we figured, how do we bridge that gap between flexibility, unreliability, and also integrating new services? Today, as I speak, we are a full-blown logistics company that has been able to integrate the informal sector with the big multinationals and created an infrastructure where not only do we provide a last mile delivery for you, but we are also providing a fulfillment center for you. So you think of us as Amazon and DHL combined in one company.
So how many SMEs are you now working with? What's your revenue?
We have served more than 500 local businesses. Currently, we are working about 5 big multinationals, and we are yet to sign our biggest contract with one of the biggest multinationals in the world, in the e-commerce sector. We have done, as at last year, 700,000 deliveries, completed deliveries. We have generated over $1.5 million in the last 5 years. Just last year alone, we did about almost $500,000. This year, with the contract that we signed last year, we are projecting to do $1.3 million this year alone. And the projection for the next 3 years will be about $2.5 to $3 million to establish ourselves as a local market leader in that sector. And this challenge is what the figures I'm speaking to is only for Ghana. And we are not even serving the entire Ghana. The sector is valued at $2 billion in Ghana only. Check for Africa. It's a lot of money. Lots of money. Well, and that's what we are trying to do. Watch out for Shark Express.
Yes, no, absolutely brilliant what you've achieved and the trajectory that you've had. But again, it comes through, doesn't it, that it's very much trial and error. It's a scientific process. You have an idea in your head to begin with, but then it comes up against reality and you pivot and you change depending on what the customers want and what you find in terms of the gaps. And, those of you who are doing the academic route, I know when you write essays, you have in your mind what the dissertation will be. Then you start writing and you realize you have to go in a different direction. And it's very similar here with entrepreneurship. And I myself am an entrepreneur of the think tank. I set up a think tank 10 years ago. That's why I'm so passionate about this. So yes, so they're achieving a lot already, but they want to go even further. And I suppose the big question for us about why we're supporting these businesses is, what's the difference when we talk about mission-driven companies and sustainable development? We're really trying to hit a sweet spot, because on one side of the spectrum is just charitable or governmental work that is helping people in very vulnerable circumstances, and government and charities are doing that work. And then on the other side of the spectrum is big corporates after as much profit as possible, selling as many products as possible. You guys really are in the middle of that. You're about achieving impact for people, but also trying to grow and be a commercially profitable company. So in your mind, how do you get that balance right? Because obviously you want the private benefit and you want the business to grow, but you want the public benefit as well in terms of the social impact that you do. How do you think about that? Perhaps I could start with you, Miller, on that.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I can argue all the day here on this context as well. There's no sustainability without there's no sustainability on volunteers. Volunteerism works for a certain time when you are independent, or you have your guardians and people taking care of you until the university period maybe. Afterwards, you need a backup. Basically, you have to eat. There's no possible volunteerism can be continued for a long time. Sustainability comes through only if there is a sustainable business model into it, or else it's 100% paid. There might be an argument, and I'm 100% into it, and I can argue for the entire thing.
Great, thank you. Helen, what about you? How do you think about that balance between profit and purpose?
Well, thank you so much for that. I feel like it always starts from us, the entrepreneurs and the businesses. What's the goal? What's your what do you think about the future? First of all, what would you like to achieve? So I feel it's us to be able to come up with ideas that at the end of the day are sustainable solutions, but also those government sectors and bodies, they have to come up with policies that are favorable enough for us to keep building and to make sure that we keep making this impact that we want or we are yearning to making. So it's a two-way thing. There should be like a partnership kind of. So in order for us to keep even building bigger and bigger, the public sector should also come on board to make these favorable policies for us to make sure, like for example, there is an issue sometimes we usually face. So my raw material are plastic bottle waste, but then sometimes we find hardships transporting this waste because sometimes it's well bulky and all that. We get so many souls. But then I feel that shouldn't be a problem. You know, I'm cleaning the environment. I know I'm creating a sustainable business. I feel you should just give me a free pass or fine, not a free pass because I pay taxes and all that. You shouldn't make it so hard for me to move where I want to be. So I feel it's a two-way thing. They should do their job as we also keep building, doing our job. So as we create businesses that empower communities, we're not just thinking about profits, but we're also thinking about the end goal. How is it benefiting the community at the end of the day?
And was there a moment, Helen, has there been a moment in your time as an entrepreneur where you've seen a life transformed by the work that you're doing and you've really felt, gosh, I'm really doing something here which is really purposeful and life-changing? Has there been a moment like that?
Yes. From day one, I've been working with, intentionally working with, because we have the capacity of collecting waste as us as a company, but we decided not to do that because there are people who can do it and earn from it. So what we do, we intentionally collaborate and partner with these women and waste pickers. They have humble backgrounds. So, and then what we do, we give them a more favorable rate way beyond the market. So that helps them earn more. And also we have a product within Hilton Traders that is for non-for-profit. We train these women and youth waste speakers on sustainable ways of how to operate their waste speaking businesses. So we give them safety gears, gumboots, to make sure that they are working in a healthy environment, because not so many of them can afford even a mere gumboots or gloves. So we are coming up with the collaboration we are having with JZ to make sure that they are working in safer environments. So for me, when I'm within the work, we have that product, and as a leader, I have whatever I do, it's like I'm trying to pay it forward. If I'm earning, how can this other person benefit from whatever I'm doing? So that alone makes me happy, and just literally makes my day. And I'm just so super proud of what we are building, because I know it's not just making me money, but also making for a whole community a living.
Great stuff. So, Anthony, Helen talked about the role of the public sector and some of the frustrations that she's faced dealing with government. And none of us really who build businesses are islands. We don't do it alone. We need the support of government for the infrastructure they build, the skills pipeline, talent pipeline. We need an ecosystem really to build businesses. We need an ecosystem of relationship and support. And I'm keen to understand from you, what have you prioritized and what have you found really useful in terms of the support systems that have been in place for you as you've developed your business?
Okay. So I think of it as business government is essentially the platform on which we businesses operate. And if there's no platform, we cannot operate. And the public sector sort of sets the rules by which we run businesses in the ecosystem. And if these rules are not favorable, and I'm using rules in place of policies and all the regulatory actions, and if these rules are not in place, we cannot thrive as businesses. For me, in Ghana, I have been very loud and actively fighting some policies that...
You haven't, have you? You're such a shy and retirement type. I can't imagine that you have been like that.
Because I spent a lot of years in corporate before starting my own business, and I did not understand the problems of entrepreneurship until myself I got into it. Then I understood the rules that government has to play in helping entrepreneurs, especially small business, thrive. But businesses are good at solving specific problems. And if you take the entire ecosystem, you will notice that we are solving many problems at scale, right? And it will be very good that the government gives us the support that we need to be able to. No government, and I say no government in the world, can single-handedly create employment for the entire country. It is entrepreneurs who will do that. So then we need the platform and the ecosystem to be able to. In Ghana, for the logistics business, I'm the president of the Korea Association. And one of the things that we advocate for is the influx of multinationals in that sector that is swallowing small businesses. What measures have been put in place to allow the small businesses in Ghana to thrive? The small delivery companies in Ghana to thrive. In fact, all you need to start a new business in Ghana is the license, a motorbike, a mobile phone, or whatever. You can start, right? But it's a difficult business. And without support, how do you purchase a motorbike? If a student, for example, says, I want to help fix the problems in the logistics sector, how would a student find the capital to purchase even 4 or 5 motorbikes? I was fortunate that I had worked over some years, had money saved, and was able to start when I wanted. But for someone who just finished school, the bank is not ready for him or her. The ecosystem probably does not even allow the business to even, for him or her to even think of the business. The government has slapped him or her with some tax that even without starting, you have a debt that you need to pay for. If the system does not work for you, you can't even start in the first place. It impedes your progress, it prevents you from starting, then now you rely on the government for job. And when people rely on governments for job, it's chaotic. So it's in the government's interest, the public sector's interest, to work with the private sectors, to create an enabling environment, to help even students or young graduates to be able to thrive. How do we do this? We should invest in entrepreneurship courses in our respective universities in the respective countries. We should create more incubators and accelerator programs to build entrepreneurs. We need to be intentional about building entrepreneurs. And the government will rather benefit more in investing in that structure than creating jobs.
I very much agree with that. And I have noticed that some American and European venture capital funds who run accelerator programs are starting to do incubators in Africa, in Asia, but it's still quite undeveloped relative to the VC programs that are in the UK and Europe and the US. And of course, the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship is a form of incubator. So we're sort of glad to be one of the first movers in that. So, Anthony, you talked about that relationship between entrepreneurship and government and what more government can do, and Helen talked about that as well. And the frustration is that some people feel when they're trying to start out and the kind of lack of support or even the blockage that they get from government. I'm interested in you personally now. What's been the biggest challenge you've faced personally on your journey as an entrepreneur?
Biggest? I don't think I've categorized the biggest and the smallest, but one of the challenges has been, I think, capital. My business is capital intensive, and because of the model that we run, where we own the fleets as opposed to using a third-party logistics. And I'm currently bootstrapping. I have no investor in my business, and I've raised some debts from the banks, and I've had some grants that supported my green journey. So, for example, when we decided to transition from the fuel ICE bikes to the electric bikes, the price of electric bike in Ghana is almost 3 times the price of the fuel bike. So then what's the incentive to go and acquire electric bike? We had grants from the likes of GCIC and some other people to be able to purchase it. And that helped us move into the electric motorcycle. And from there, we've been able to go the fleet from 0 to 21 electric motorcycle. That is a big challenge for me, because if I want to transition all my fleet into electric motorcycle or vehicle, I need a lot of capital to be able to do that. If I want to scale my business, as I want to now to complete all the 60 regions, I need capital. I've been bootstrapping and I'm going at my own pace that is comfortable for me. So I think that I will qualify as the biggest challenge.
Okay, thank you. And Miller, what about you? What's been your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I second Anthony on that. From a country which has a war and inflation and going through COVID, and we had a record breaking 66% inflation a couple of years back. So attracting investors was a disaster because of that context. So definitely that's one thing we are currently also facing. Fortunately, we are in a better place because of doing it for close to a decade. Being an entrepreneur, we have ways of raising funds, but not many entrepreneurs who are just popping up. They are not blessed enough to have that facility. Then the other areas we find difficulty in terms of bringing a tech solution to a country which is very conventional. So being an early mover, it's most of the cases it's a benefit where you attract more investors and you have running a free ocean, which you find everything as an opportunity. But the disadvantage is biggest disadvantage, I would say, breaking open that stereotyping and the norm which operates for 2,000 years, and try to break open that norm and to use tech instead of your intuition. So that very expensive. So end of the day, everything leads to the capital to feed that barriers. But there are small chunks of many issues, and capital being one of the major remover of these barriers. So
okay, very interesting. Let's not be totally negative, because I remember from our time in Ghana, you were a very happy-go-lucky guy. So tell me, what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, it's the best thing. You don't feel like exactly what Alan said. So you don't feel like you're working. So I love to present an idea and how things work, and I like to execute things. And I'm a 5th-generation farmer working on agriculture. So being an engineer, I'm supposed to sit behind a computer 9 to 5, and then the US time comes, then working for another 6 hours in Sri Lankan context. That's usually an engineer's work. Working for 18 hours and getting paid for 9 hours. So usually that's the context I'm supposed to be. But I'm traveling, I'm working with farmers on the ground. Majority of the time behind the computer it's not my case. So I'm happy what I'm doing. That's something very positive, which is pushing forward to work 18 hours for myself. That's something, it's cringe, but that's the truth. That's basically push us forward. The second thing, the recognition you get, and my personal gut feeling when I start was I'm an engineer. If I lost today, I always have opening. So there are 200,000 engineer opening in Sri Lanka alone. So I'm not left out. So that's the confidence I had, and so far I'm blessed to run my show in my own way.
So, Helen, we talked about some of the kind of, brilliant things that you've seen and experienced as being an entrepreneur and how that really drives you. What's been the hard, these guys have talked about capital. Is that the same for you, or is there another thing which has been a big challenge?
To some extent, yes. Also, capital. I think this goes to just any entrepreneur out there. Facing hardships in getting the capital, but also if there is an opportunity of capital, mostly the banking systems, it's like the interest rates are so high. And also there is that hardship of the due diligences. It's like you're a growing business, but then they take you through a very hard due diligence that makes it almost impossible for you to get what the support you need to get. So, and also, it's something I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it gets to, gender. So hard sometimes for me. I don't know about others, like being, a woman entrepreneur. There's so many hardships you go through. You enter an office, and then someone just literally just wants to take advantage because you're a woman, and also maybe you can't have this amount of money because we're not sure you can be able to manage it well. So, but also maybe in entrepreneurship, away from the financial bit of it, it's the policies like taxes. In my country, like literally everything is like in business. Like there's so many taxes. Like for example, pay as you earn. Whatever you get, you're taxed on it. I remember we're like growing businesses, so we need some holidays. Like and what makes it even a bit unfair is like very big companies are given these incentives. But then the growing companies, it's like since you're that small, you have to go through everything. So I feel that should be favorable terms and policies and incentives given to these entrepreneurs, because sometimes maybe if it could be given, like for example, the first 10 years of operation, you get some holidays, and then after that you start paying the taxes you're supposed to pay as a business in that specific country. It is something that I feel should, and I believe should really be put out there. And it's one of the hardships I've been experiencing, the taxes, bringing in machineries, and you literally have to pay a lot of tax. URA, because it's called URA in my country, so you have to go through all that, then come back and then fight on getting those customers on board. Because we have so many well-established big companies we are competing with, so they have a lot of money, and we have to really compete with those people. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And one final question to you, for me, is particularly you're an entrepreneur, but as a female entrepreneur, if you were starting out again, what advice would you give to people out there who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs? What one big bit of advice would you give?
Thank you so much. I would say that start now. There is never a most convenient or better situation or time for you to start, because you can always learn by doing. I've learned a lot. I've hit like a zillion rock bottom, but then I came up, and then I'm what I am today because I refuse to stop. the resilience, the persistence have always really driven me to what I am today. So keep doing what you're doing, but as you learn still, you have to come when you've improved. And also whatever you're building, put an importance to it that you're not only making money but also you're empowering your communities. You will be able to get so many opportunities. And the other thing, put yourself out there, show up, and then seek for guidance. You will be able to move places. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. So you're all now here in this room part of a brilliant, fantastic network, which is your all Commonwealth Scholars Fellows. So you're uniting with the people who are watching virtually. So this is a bigger network for the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, a more diverse network, but please feel free to connect with one another and learn from one another, and the Secretariat can support that. So you can be in touch with the Secretariat, the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, to connect with some of the entrepreneurs here, and the entrepreneurs obviously to connect with the scholars who may have very deep domain expertise, knowledge, maybe people that you might hire in the future. So please keep that dialogue going, and the Secretariat can facilitate that. So before we go to questions from people, and I can see lots of questions coming in, so just a reminder, you please ask questions through the chat box. Is about the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship. How has it helped you during these last 6 months? It's probably helped you in numerous ways. And I just want you to try and pick out one or two big ways that you think you've learned a lot and it's developed your business. So you've got that microphone in hand, so you're ready to go. Excellent, go for it.
Thank you so much. So first of all, the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship has really changed my life. Like, for example, in Africa, we have so many brilliant minds and incredible innovations. So, but we always need that push and support to even scale them bigger. So the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship has been able to help me, guide me, improve my business operations. We've been able to have an international exposure. We are in London right now. We have a whole big network. And also, it's not just an accelerator program, but it's a community of very supportive people. We've been able to have personalized coaching. We've been able to refine our finances and the way we operate our business. So it has been an incredible community, and I'm forever grateful. There's so much I can talk about it. I'll finish probably next month, but it has been a wonderful experience.
That's brilliant to hear. And we're obviously delighted that you've been on the programme as well, someone that's as talented as you. Miller, tell us about what's been good or bad about the fellowship. You can give us critical feedback.
Definitely. So I came to a CSF program with a purpose. So my business model works on collaborating with distribution partners in different parts of the world. Because I'm sitting in Sri Lanka, I can't expand. I don't have financial, as I mentioned, in terms of setting up my own company in different parts of the world. But Sri Lanka is a tiny island, and we must expand in terms of sustain the business and basically want to be a unicorn long term. So in that context, I have reached wherever Sri Lanka has network, like where my diasporas are, which is my easiest access, usually Southeast Asia or South Asia. But Africa is always a potential market, and you can't left out African region in terms of agriculture when it comes to agriculture and technology. So I tried, failed many times. Having a Enros trusted partners and having a strong partnership who can get it through, and where to start from a different continent, Latam or Africa, wherever you go. That's something you need an endorsement. Yes, this team is best, and we can endorse it. So I thought being part of Commonwealth, that's an unavoidable opportunity, but everybody can get. So it's almost 100 countries. So we can land in a place and get to know each other through our endorsement, which is unavoidable. So that's an opportunity I was thought before applying for this. And I hope, I believe confidently that I have achieved. So because I got connected with all these people, and I know people in Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, wherever I want to go, I have people right now where I can ask whether I can collaborate with them. They don't no need to be in my same domain. I have a guy, I know a guy, so who can give an address. So that's the first important thing I see the opportunity I get it through this. And being here in London and having an access for the Imperial Alumni Forum and CSF alumni, and at the same time, the team. So that is a huge opportunity where we can tap into doors. We can knock the doors with authority. So that's something I expect. I think I have gained.
Have you fallen out with anyone on the cohort?
Yeah, I do. But I can't. I don't want.
You can't. You don't want to name them. Okay. Good. Anthony, what's been the best thing for you about the fellowship?
For me, I think the commercial. Wait, this working?
Yeah, okay.
I think the commercial usefulness of the program was an extreme benefit to me. To be able to pitch to UK investors, partners, and having conversations across board is very useful for my business and the exposure that it gave. One thing I also noticed about CSF is founder focus. So the two sessions were different. In Ghana, it was more focused on the founder and how to make the founder investor ready to acquire the founder with the knowledge and the skill to operate the business, run the business. And in the UK, what CSF did was to open the door, give us access to investors, the amazing part is the magician and the one-on-one session. Yeah, I will never forget that. So it was very useful. And for me, I think it's something that would last with me for a long time as compared to some of the other programs that we've been to. That's a bad thing though when it's on a lighter note. You see, but I think there's the next cohort, we should factor the Africans' local foods. I know my colleagues, Mauritian, they miss local food. And we hope you can integrate it in the program going forward, so that we can also have a taste of some of the local foods over here in London. But so far, so good, amazing, very, very beneficial.
Brilliant. The other mic, I think, is being fixed. I'm now going to open it up for the final part of the session to questions that come through on the chat box. I'm not going to take every question because I feel like the fellows have answered them. So, No from Tanzania, who's right hot off the mark, asking questions, has asked two. The first one on how governments can better support entrepreneurs, and I feel that the fellows have really talked about that. But the second question that No asks from Tanzania is, if a startup has limited resources, how do you decide which technologies worth investing in early on? So maybe I could come to you on that question.
At the moment, in terms of resources, if you have a computer and a connection for internet, I think you are pretty much settled. You are pretty much connected. Every tech there is. So okay, let's start from this point. So if you want to build an IP from tech, and you are a technologist and you have very limited resources, every product has an open source alternative. So it could be an AI. You talk about OpenAI, you have DeepSeek, or you have Hugging Face. So anything 90% and above have an open source alternative if you want to build an IP out of it. Second, technology no need to be just defined in terms of the brand, and no need to pay a lot. So tech is saturating more and more, it's getting affordable more and more. If you want me to answer where you focus more in the initial stage, I would say learn yourself for AI orchestration, get familiar with the tools, don't try to build from scratch, familiar with the tools, and there are more than enough free versions where you can explore, and implement. We know startups, we know individual freelance entrepreneurs who are making 6 figures just by AI orchestration if you want to start on. If I'm answering your question on that.
Great. And one comment is, well done to all 3 entrepreneurs. So some praise there.
Thank you.
Anthony, do you want to comment?
I want to touch on limited resource. I don't know in the context of limited resources, but for example, if it's technology, I think you are in the best era ever. I mean, doing business now as compared to 10 years ago is completely different. You can leverage AI, you can leverage open source. There's so much way to acquire this resource, and there's knowledge all over. You can also, I mean, there's many ways to go about it. If in terms of human resource, I, for example, one of the strategies I used was that when I couldn't afford to hire some level of staff, I used interns, students who were volunteers. I used them for like the first 2 years of the business, and the value they added to our business was great. It was enormous. So there's a way to maximize resources without necessarily feeling restricted. And yeah, I want to also talk about how government can support startups. It's a topic that it interests me a lot. And for me, every opportunity I get, I talk about it. It's no-brainer. It's very easy for government to support startups. Government it does have other priorities. And programs like this will help government, or they can have conversations or discuss with government on policies or initiatives that they can tailor best, because CSF knows, they do know our needs. We've done this with them for 6 months. We've shared our challenges with them. We've shared our impediments. We've told them what works for us, what does not work for them. They have seen it. And they are in the best position to talk to government to say, you know what, on the continent of Africa, XYZ does not exist. We can equip them with this or that to be able to scale, or on this continent. So I think that we should all be loud about it. Institutions like CSF and we entrepreneurs should maybe move our conversations from other things to talk more about how government can support us.
Great, thank you. I've got a question here now from Habib in Pakistan. Says great work. So some praise for you. And just wants to understand the entrepreneurial ecosystem within universities. A lot of the people here are obviously doing PhDs or masters or have done. And whether any of you have got, and you don't necessarily have to answer it if you don't feel that you can, but whether you have any experience of working with universities and the support that they give, and maybe some of the challenges of working with universities.
I do. So let me brief on that. And for the previous question also, universities will be the best option in terms of resources. They have the best equipments, best resources, human resource, knowledgeable people, consultation, everything. If you are sitting in the university as a student on any grade, I think you are in a gold mine to utilize it. Many people miss out this opportunity. Even after the universities, we utilize this opportunity. For example, my university, just my university from Sri Lanka, has 650 acres of land space and dry zone farming. All my pilot, LoRaWAN researches, everything happens in university. If I do this in commercial terms, it might be thousands of dollars I have to spend. Similarly, when there is a project comes in, university enrollment works unbelievably powerful. So we apply together whenever we need a collaboration. For example, if you are into green tech, ask me. So for example, like Green Climate Fund, the largest fund you can ever consider. So those funds consider state universities to be upfront any applications. So if you collaborate with them and serve your purpose, and you collaborate with professors and the infrastructure, the resources, trial and errors, R&D, everything happens on that environment, is a huge advantage. So I use university every year at least for $100,000 minimum worth of resources coming from my university. So from machineries to their equipment, from consultation, human resource, I use almost everything in my university.
Great.
Still, it's
Thank
been a decade, basically.
There's a point from Dr. Simon Eman, who is an assistant professor of psychology in a Pakistani university, who's got lots of business ideas and wants to know the eligibility criteria, you can speak to the Secretariat of the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission about that. But I do know you've got to be good. That's one of the criteria. Definitely, this cohort has been incredibly strong. So please be in touch with the Secretariat if you're interested in applying. This is a really good question from Rebecca, who, and maybe I might come to you on this, Helen, which is whether you were employed before venturing into entrepreneurship, and if yes, at what point did you see it fit to quit and focus on business?
It's a very, very good question. So yes, I was employed even before I was working for a family business. So immediately after graduating, actually no, in my Form 6 back, I worked for 3 people. But then it's like the money I was being paid, it's literally was just taking care of transportation and very cheap lunch. So, and I used to move because of the fact that I was literally just wasting my time. I wasn't developing. And me as a person, I'm someone with very big goals and very huge vision. So after campus, I started working for my family in the textile business. So, but still, I'm someone who always think about myself as someone who creates opportunities. I always wanted to be a boss, someone who gives opportunities, and someone who always, because also me as a person, I give a lot, I'm a giver. So, but then I thought I was not really getting what I wanted, and I wasn't gonna achieve whatever all my dreams if I was to work for someone else. So all that was driving me to starting up something of my own. So also now starting Hilton Traders is something that came from my passion. I did Bachelor's of Industrial and Fine Art from one of the biggest universities in East Africa, Macquarie University. So I did whatever I did because of what I already loved deep down. So it literally doesn't feel like I'm working too much, even when work is overwhelming and all that. So it's because of what I went through, the hardships, through all my journey working with other people, hitting rock bottom over and over again. And that really drove me to, being like, no, you know what, let me start doing this for my life. Let me start doing my own thing. Even when, as you know, entrepreneurship, it's always not a very small journey. So many hardships, so many responsibilities on one person. There was a moment whereby I was the everything, and also working with people who are not so much on board with you. It's like you're having the vision, you have a team, but then everything is on you. So there is that. And also knowing not to over complain, because this is your vision, all your goals, all the opportunities, everything is literally on your shoulders. So I worked for someone, but then I shifted because of what I wanted as a person. And I always take myself as I'm a boss, really. No one can afford me, so that's why I was like, I gotta do this thing myself. So yeah.
Great, thank you. I think some people are complaining about the mic again, so we might just use my mic for the time being, and maybe give that for the tech crew to look at. I'll bring you in a second, Anthony. Just to say, there's been a lot of questions here about the Startup Fellowship and the criteria for applying, when do you apply by, whether you need an existing business or not. All of those questions, please do get in contact with the Secretariat. We'll focus on questions here which are about the experiences that the founders have. So, Anthony, I know you want to come in on this question about the transition from employment into entrepreneurship. I mean, I would say from my own perspective, there's kind of two models. One model is a bit utopian. It's this sort of idea that you quit everything and you put all your eggs into the basket and you go for it. My experience and the experience of other entrepreneurs I know is often that it's a side gig which is complementing your existing employment, and then slowly it starts picking up, and then you can make the gradual transition from your old job into the new job because you've got enough money coming in. Because the stress of not having money can take away from the creativity that you need to build your business and grow your business. So there are different models of doing it, but that was my experience. Anthony, you might want to comment on this. And then the final question I'm going to ask everybody is a question that has come from Vanessa Ranjit, who talks about mentors and the importance of mentors, and whether you guys had that and how important that was when you were growing your business. So I'm going to come to Anthony first on the employment thing and then the mentorship thing.
We're all picking up fine without the mic. You're actually getting better sound without it. So people got good lungs, you don't need the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Don't use the mic.
You can put down the.
Okay.
Hopefully that's better for everybody listening.
Yeah. You touched on what I was going to say about the transitioning from corporate or employment to self-employment or entrepreneurship. I just think that depends on a lot of context, but like you said, there are two sides. Where you feel for it as a student and you know you are going to give everything to it, feel free. Where you think that you don't have enough experience or guidance, you can go through incubator programs, or you can decide to work with a similar company of your interest to gain the experience and the knowledge that you need. Then you will continue from there. To answer the question about mentorship, entrepreneurship is very lonely. It's a journey that you cannot embark on alone. You need an angel and a devil. An angel to hold your hands when things get tough, and a devil to tame you down so you don't get over into your head and feel like you're some God. Yeah. But mentors are important, and mentors do not have age, they don't have pockets, they don't ascribe any category to your mentor. Mentor can be somebody who is even younger than you, but has access to people that you need. Your mentor can be anyone. Most often when we think of mentors, we are expecting a Bill Gates or somebody who is rich or somebody who is knowledgeable, a professor. No. Your mentor can be your friend. A mentor is somebody who's going to guide you, build your business. And find somebody you can trust and rely on. Not somebody you're going to, for lack of better, somebody you're going to drain. Because there's mentor fatigue. All you do is drain this mentor, and next you know, he or she is not picking your calls, he or she is not available for you. But a mentor is somebody literally who will be there for you 24/7. It doesn't have to be financial. So far the person can pick your phone and say, hello, you're good to go.
Great, thank you, Anthony. Miller, maybe you want to come in on this point about mentors.
Yeah. So as I mentioned from my earliest point, the first point that I'm a taught entrepreneur, I'm not like a born entrepreneur. I'm forced to do a side hustle for my financial constraints in my university period, but my mentor is my lecturer, so I'm very fortunate on that. So it's a small story I want to share with you guys. So I was doing this website and stuff in 2012-13 period, and my second year time period. So one of my lecturer now is Dr. Sarveshwaran. So he used to be an entrepreneur while he was in the university. He failed and he chose academic. And so I was sitting in the stone bench and just developing websites, cutting classes in the early days, obviously on that time. And he asked like, what are you doing? Why you are not attending classes properly? I said like, I have works, I have to complete few things, and I'm learning and developing stuff and so on. So did you register your company? Is there a brand you're working on? I said like, no, I'm just talking to people and building websites for them and social network platforms for them. And he asked me to come to his room and asked me to wait in this room, it's like outside his room, and went inside for like 15 minutes and he came back with a sheet of paper. So the paper had a domain name, brandme.lk, and my username and password. Basically, he registered my first company within that time period. He registered the company, he handed over the check, said like, this is how it's supposed to be done. It's not something you go to people and ask and develop a website. You can't invoice people if you don't have a name. And he's my first person. He teach me how to become an entrepreneur from developer. So it's been 13 years. I'm still grateful for him. And he introduced me to this Yala Club community where the entrepreneurship program, and he paid me my first salary not to quit what I'm doing. I was placed in my campus interview for the largest tech company in the country. It was acquired by EQT very recently for like $600 million or something. I was supposed to be an engineer at that company, but he said like, you continue, you work for the Yala Club community. It's a volunteer-driven community, but you pay me. You run the show, and while you're doing your company, and I will arrange some payment for you. And I was working there 10 months, and I met my co-founders on the same community, and it's been 12 years, and it's a show. So I'm always grateful for him. So mentors who are genuine well-wishers of you, and if you feel that connection, then there is no need to have that sector-specific knowledge or anything. So someone who can support you and believe on you and genuinely want you to succeed. I believe they are the best mentors.
Brilliant, really, really great insight. And Helen, but from you about mentors.
All right, thank you. So to just add on what they said, mentors really do an incredible job. When I was starting, I think I never got the opportunity to mentors, but now I have like opportunities to so many mentors, actually, people who are constantly guiding me to doing the right thing, learning and unlearning. But also I feel, to push it back to you, you have to have the willingness to learn and to always seek the knowledge, because sometimes it's not just what the mentor can do, but also what do you want to achieve? Are you willing to learn? Are you showing up always? Are you always looking for these opportunities for your self-development and also company development? So I feel it should also, be a two-way thing. Should also be you, the person who is seeking for the help. Are you willing to change? Are you willing to grow? That's when everything can actually even work out, because you can get one, but then you're not really shifting. So I feel even in this program, I've been able to get incredible guidance. There's so many stuff that I knew were right, but I wasn't doing it right. So I was able to learn and unlearn, and then get all the guidance. We've been able to be funded. We've gotten funding from the program as well. And also the guidance actually continues. It's also going to continue way beyond the program as well. So it's very important to go out there, look for these opportunities. I usually made it my part-time job. I always go out there, look for opportunities, apply, and then you get opportunities like these. But then you can never get these opportunities if you do not put yourself out there.
Yes.
So yeah.
I think that's a really good point, Helen. And what I found about entrepreneurs here and other entrepreneurs I know is that, yes, they're very good talkers, they're very eloquent, they like the stage, but they're also really good listeners. They like learning new things and finding out about new things and taking new things on board and finding about new opportunities. So they're good listeners as well as being good talkers. On mentors, we all have a story about, I have a story about, you know, a particular person I used to work for who encouraged me to set up my business, just like you. Some people here I've found in their pitch decks also have higher profile mentors, advisors almost, who maybe don't have that so strong a personal connection, but because they're quite high profile, quite good on a pitch deck because they reassure investors or others. You know, if that name is quite well known, it gives reassurance that this business is quite good. So actually, yes, having the personal mentors who know you and have known you for a long time, but also having those slightly higher profile advisors can give you very high profile advice, but also kind of endorsement, which reassures the investment community. So that's something to think about too. We're going to come to an end now, but thanks so much for watching. I hope you've been inspired by these brilliant entrepreneurs and what they're achieving and what they will go on to achieve, thanks to the Commonwealth Startup Fellowship. Please be in touch with the Secretariat here at the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission if you're interested in joining the next cohort. But as I said, we can all learn from one another. So I want, you know, everyone in this room here who's done the Startup Fellowship is now part of the Commonwealth Scholarship community. So you're all one community, and I hope you connect together. But a big round of applause, please, for our panelists. And thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.